The Buckeyes hanging out with American royalty at the White House, as they should. And before that, of course, they had work to complete at the Shoe. Welcome into the voice of college football in Ohio State Live. This is our typical destination for all of you, Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Tony Gerdeman's here from Buckeye Huddle and Buckeye Weekly as well. Of course, that's the podcast to catch with Tony, Buckeye Weekly, and Steve Hellwagon coming back for his introduction just on time. Yes.
I got my three dogs here, so we never know what that'll entail. But if I have to jump out real quick, I'm just letting them out the door. So
I would otherwise be bragging about our clean, nice little background setup. We'll kick Tony out for a quick second, but it was basically built for two people for all the other shows. And since StreamYard no longer gives us the option to line us all up, I'm going to have a little talking to them if I can talk to them. Or
Mark, from now on, I'll just go over to Steve's on Wednesdays. We'll just do this there.
You guys are welcome to come here and we can do a 3-shot. Guys are welcome for that.
Is that Florida?
Yes, you may not want to do that for the next few months.
Yeah,
but,
7 months out of the year, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Now you mention it. Didn't say anything about it in January or February.
I was standing
72 right now.
I was standing outside the gate for the spring game the other day, and it was like 45 degrees and blowing. And I said to the guy, "When did they move the spring game to January?" I mean, the weather here has just this April. We're 16 days into it. This is the worst April. I think it's going to go down on record as the worst April we've ever had. And I think you could call it that now, and we're only halfway through it because it's been like 40 and rain every day for 2 weeks.
It looks beautiful out right now, but it's
still a nice day today. Yeah,
47. Yeah. But I think a low of low of 34 tonight and a high of 80 on Friday. So gotta love it.
Yeah, it's coming. The good stuff's coming.
My daughter sent me a picture of her car buried in snow, albeit this was in Connecticut on April 12th. I don't remember seeing snow that late in the year accumulated to that degree. And I'm constantly trying to get her down here to live close to me. But so that's another opportunity right there. All right, folks, we know that you want us talking Buckeyes. Steve, of course, you made your way to the White House. And I could not, even though J.D. Vance is my guy, I could not get past the opportunity to show the fumble. So I tweeted that out with the promotion of the show here. That's what everybody is going to remember outside of the Ohio State camp, or maybe even inside the Ohio State camp. But, you got an opportunity for, I believe, a third time to do something that few people get a chance to do.
Yeah, third time been to the White House, went in 03 with Jim Tressel's team. And obviously Tressel's now the lieutenant governor. And he and Mike DeWine were two of the featured guests. They were seated front and center right in front of the stage. And toward the end of the event, Donald Trump called the two of them up to join the captains and Ryan Day, Vance, and Trump for a group photo. So I've got a photo of that. Jim Tressel, DeWine, the vice president, the president, the captains, and Ryan Day. Quite a picture there. And this was held on the south lawn of the White House the two previous times with the Tressel team and then the Urban Meyer team. In 2015, we were in the East Room. So it was inside. And when we got there, I mean, it was a really nice day. It was about 73 degrees and sunny. And I asked somebody, I said, will this be inside or outside? And they're like, definitely outside because the weather was looking good. No chance of rain. There were at least 500 to maybe 800 people there. A lot of Ohio people, a lot of Washington people from Ohio. Some elected officials were there, as we said, the governor and the lieutenant governor, Jim Tressel. And then obviously a lot of Ohio State luminaries, President Carter, Ross Bjork, the coaches, their wives, just a ton of people along on this trip from Ohio. And it was just a great celebration of the state of Ohio, Ohio State University, and Ohio State football primarily. And the segment went about 29 minutes, and I think Trump spent about 20 of that talking up the team, talking up the players, handshaking with some of the key guys. He went through the playoff run and shared the highlights of that, and sang the praises of Ryan Day. And J.D. Vance, the vice president from Ohio, got up and spoke for a couple of minutes, and an Ohio State graduate as well. Talked about how proud he was of the Buckeyes. And then Ryan Day got up there, and he shared the Theodore Roosevelt quote about the man in the arena and the critics who, are say mean things about him. Boy, that really applied when you talk about this Ohio State team that lost to Michigan and then had to endure 3 weeks of people who had never been in the arena complaining about the people who were in that arena. And then they redeemed themselves, obviously, with the playoff run. So it was just a great day. And they flew out in the morning, went to the Lincoln Memorial, went to a law firm that overlooks the U.S. Capitol and had lunch, then came to the White House, got to walk around the White House for a little bit, the players did. And then after the ceremony, President Trump invited the team to file through the Oval Office, which I'd never been on that side of the White House. Obviously, I'd always been inside. And so we're there, and you come out on the south side, and the view is incredible. There's a tidal pool that runs all the way down to the Washington Monument straight ahead. And then off to your right is the Rose Garden and the Oval Office. And so as we're filing out behind them, they're going into the Oval Office to take pictures and look around. So that was just a great thrill. And then a lot of the people on the tour got to go to the vice president's residence for a tour there as well. Half the group headed on back to Columbus. A lot of the guys going to the NFL were there. I don't think Lathan Ransom or Quinshon Judkins in particular were there. Maybe not Tyleik Williams as well. Not sure, but I would say about 95% of the team was there, and just a great day for Ohio State football, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I saw Devin Brown there as well in the pictures, and some of the guys that departed were back. I will say, in terms of the trophy, they should have told J.D. Vance that this is a two-piece trophy. This was not entirely on him. Somebody should have alerted him that just be aware. This could have happened to anybody. But also, if you're a super Ohio State fan, do you know that that's a two-piece trophy, or were you not paying attention to that? Maybe that aspect of it. But yeah, he should have been alerted. I'm not going to give him any crap for that one. I did like the fact that he actually made light of it later on, which is unusual for this administration to make light of some mistakes, and so I thought that was funny.
No doubt. Right. And I feel bad for Vance because he's never going to live that down, and then in political ads against him, a championship trophy isn't the only thing J.D. Vance fumbled. He fumbled our economy, or whatever down the line. But when he's running for president beginning in about 18 months, probably. So, whatever. But, man, what a day. And again, these guys work so hard for that. And you see teams go through there. The Dodgers went through there for winning the World Series week before, and the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go through there for winning the Super Bowl coming up. And, obviously we don't have a king, although this guy believes he's the king, Trump, but, these are the closest things you have to kind of, royal moments and celebrations of great Americans, are recognized. And I think that this is a special way that our country does this. And for people who are at the head of their field to be honored and recognized into the national spotlight like this is pretty cool.
Yeah, as Ryan Day told us a week or two ago, like, this is something that the players can tell their families, like, hey, I was at the White House. So you tell your kids, your grandkids, I was invited to the White House, and you've got pictures to show it. So it was an opportunity for an experience and to be recognized.
Yes, the rest of us have to set up some kind of tour, something like that. But yes, that's the key term in there. Invited to the White House. So regardless of whatever you think about the politics of the situation, I never understood the approach that you would not accept an invitation to the White House, but to each his own. And certainly everyone has that freedom of choice, which I certainly back that up as well. So, all right. On a Saturday, we, of course, had the spring game, which was supposed to be live, and it was live for a while. Then it wasn't live. And I'm talking about guys getting tackled.
Oh,
Yeah. Like that lasted for what, like a series, 2 series, something like that, where we saw actually guys brought to the ground. Did we see that? I thought we saw that for a series, or I don't know. It just, the physicality of the game seemed to dissipate immediately.
I think it was dependent upon who was in the game. And if there was somebody that they didn't want to get hurt in the game, then it's like, this is thud. But they tackled here and there. But
the quarterbacks were off limits.
Yeah. And although we saw them the week before, and they were, they were live for a portion, and Tavian St. Clair was live for the entire thing, but no reason to risk that on the last day of spring when you're just happy that everybody who has made it through has made it through. But you did get to see Bo Jackson run hard. I think everybody finally got an opportunity to see that. I think my biggest concern coming out of that is the same as Ryan Day's, and it was a soft middle for the Ohio State defense with the 2s and the 3s on the line of scrimmage, where you see just C.J. Donaldson able to run right up the middle without being touched repeatedly. So that is a concern. And yeah, it was a basic defense, and you can change some things up with some stunts, and you can hide some things and do some different things that makes life more difficult on the offensive line. And they'll do that. I also continue to think that they're going to be in the portal. They're going to be looking, but so is everybody else. But I think my biggest concern coming out of there, even aside from the quarterbacks, is the defensive line.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Donaldson broke through there for a couple of runs. I thought Donaldson and Bo Jackson were outstanding at running back. I came away with it thinking, the running back position's in great shape, the wide receiver position's in good shape, the tight end position's in good shape with Max Clare, who had a touchdown catch. Offensive line's in good shape. If the other 10 guys, I keep saying this, on offense can just do their job, they will make it work out just fine for the quarterback. Us old timers will remember a guy by the name of Joe Germain, who played there almost 30 years ago, 1996, 97, and 98. And the thing with Joe was he didn't have the biggest arm. He was very accurate and just made the right play all the time. Did not go on to a lot of success in the NFL, was with the St. Louis Rams for a few years and as a backup, and did not have a prolonged NFL career, but he was just a good quarterback. And I don't want to say that saying is, quote, just a good quarterback, or that Keenholz is, quote, just a good quarterback, but they're inexperienced at this point, certainly. And inexperience can cost you. I think that as long as the other 10 guys on the field do what they do, then they can make that quarterback look much better than he may be at this point in his career trajectory. And I think it kind of goes back to Jermaine. He had never played at the Big Ten level in 96, and he came in and lit everybody on fire, and led them to the Rose Bowl win that year. So to me, 2 Big Ten championships in his time, at Ohio State. And again, as I said, he was not Will Howard or Yields or Stroud. He was, not that caliber of a quarterback, but he was good. And he had guys like Orlando Pace around him, So if the people around this quarterback plays good, then I think they're going to be fine. Back on that running back, Donaldson ripped off 2 runs early in the scrimmage, and immediately somebody next to me goes, defensive tackle. They need defensive tackles. They got to go out and get defensive tackles in the transfer portal. It was like the alarm went off in the press box. I think Caden McDonald and
Edric Houston.
The other guy.
Edric Houston.
Thank you. I was on the radio this morning and I got Edric Houston right and forgot Caden McDonald. I think those 2 guys are solid, but after them, it drops off a cliff, I think, right now. And need some people to really work up and to play commiserate to the number of stars that they may have had coming out of high school as quickly as humanly possible.
Riding down the elevator from the press box, getting ready to head out to the field and then to the post game, I told some people in the elevator, like, what we're about to watch and with Ryan Day in the post game is going to be exactly what we saw after the 2023 spring game post game, where you could tell he was concerned about the offensive line and the fact that spring your number one left tackle is Josh Fryer and your number one right tackle was Zen Mahalski. And Victor Cutler was involved, and they're trying to figure out if he can be their center. And you could just see like he was concerned, and that's exactly what you got on Saturday when the questions came about the defensive line and in particular the defensive tackles. But even a defensive end, you're still talking your 3 and your 4 are Logan George, who looked pretty good on Saturday, but your 3 and 4 is Logan George and CJ Hicks, and CJ Hicks has a bunch of athleticism, but we don't know if he can play defensive end. So even that position, and your starters, your 2 proven guys are career backups in Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson. Now they're backups because they're behind 2 guys that never left basically and then never came off the field. But even the defensive ends are relatively unproven, even though we've seen quite a bit of 2 of them. So I think the defensive line as a whole, it's going to be difficult to go and get a defensive end, I think, because it's going to be somebody that wants to play, and they're going to see, 2 seniors, three seniors basically in the mix, and think, well, I can go somewhere else. And also when you look at the portal, and I say this about the current Buckeyes as well, Ohio State's not going to pay the most. Other programs are going to pay the most because they have to. So you're not going to be able to buy players to come in and play 20 snaps. So you're going to find people that want to do that, and that's also a difficult ask. And are good enough to do that.
Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Keep in mind that if you can't watch us, you can listen to us on your favorite audio platform. Just look up Voice of College Football Ohio State, so you can do that, as well as sponsor the show. Sponsorships at vocfb.com. I'll put that in the chat. Product, service, your personal brand, anything that you would like in regards to a sponsorship with us. That's worked out very well for a number of people in the past. You guys kind of covered on what I was going to ask concerning not just the spring game, but the consistency of storylines, narratives that you can take from everything you gathered in the spring, tie it to the spring game and say, okay, this wasn't just a one-off, an aberration, or a flash of a play or 2 for somebody or a unit where we need to be concerned or ecstatic, but this is consistent with what we've seen the entire way through that we can take into the rest of the off season.
I'll throw out, yeah. I mean, Mylan Graham was he showed what we've been hearing. I had 105 yards or whatever receiving on the 4 catches. This was talking to Brian Hartline, talking to Mylan Graham and others, Carnell Tate, about Mylan Graham at one of the bowl games. They kept talking about it was a growing process, and it was not an easy process last year as a true freshman for Mylan Graham coming in June, and just he didn't have the winter and the spring like a lot of guys do. So he hits June, got the summer workouts, and then you're into fall camp, and it's sink or swim, and you eventually sink, and then you've got to find your way back up. And he did. He was able to do that. Played in 2 of the playoff games. Of course, there was the 2 blowouts. Everybody played in those games, but was getting better and better. And then had his footing and went into winter knowing what he was doing, and attacked winter workouts, has attacked getting better as a route runner, attacking the football, attacking that, and just all of the things that, all of the technical aspects. He's always been an incredible athlete after the catch, before the catch. Now he's become a more well-rounded receiver, and he's shown that all spring, and he showed that in the spring game. So I think that's one. I still am wondering, is Brian Hartline just going to stick with 3 or 4 receivers? Because that's generally what he's done, because the top of his receivers, like the top of his depth chart is always so good. Like, how do you take Jeremiah Smith off the field? How do you take Carnell Tate off the field? And so you kind of understand it. So I think they're moving towards an area where they can play some more guys, and I think Mylan Graham is one of those guys. I still also think they've got two tight ends that are going to play a lot, and Will Kazmarek and Max Clare, and they're going to play together. So when they're playing together, there's only going to be two receivers out there, which is going to limit a lot of these guys' opportunity as well. So I think they've got a ton of talent in receiver and tight end, but they can't all play together, and that's unfortunate.
I would agree on Graham. I think that he had done pretty well during the course of the spring and showed it in the spring game. Bo Jackson, to me, is going to be a guy that's going to be hard to keep off the field as a true freshman. James Peoples must be really good because they didn't play him at all in the spring game, like 2 carries and then go grab a clipboard and a ball cap and some bubble wrap, because it was pretty obvious they did not want to put him in harm's way. C.J. Donaldson got a little bit more run than you probably thought he would, considering he ran for 2,000 yards in his career at West Virginia before coming to Ohio State. And boy, oh boy, was he punishing people on the business end of some of those runs. I think he, bowled over Leroy Roker maybe on one of them, and Malik Hartford maybe on one of them. And it was, if your name was Malik Hartford, it was a hard day because you got trucked a couple times, and he's trying to win a safety spot there next to Caleb Downs, and he's splitting time with Jalen McLean kind of at that spot right now, and we'll see if one of them takes hold of that spot in preseason camp. But he was, he stuck his nose in there a few times and got it handed back to him a couple times by some of the hard running that these tight ends and running backs were putting down. But on the whole, as I said, I came away on offense. If I had to rate the position groups on a scale of 1 to 10, I think they're all 7.5 or better. The quarterback's probably 7.5, receivers 10, offensive line 9, maybe, as good an offensive line as they've had coming out of the spring in 3 or 4 years. Let's see, tight ends probably an 8 to an 8.5. And what does that leave? Running backs, I'm going to say 8.5, solid 8.5, and maybe a 9 if everybody stays healthy. You got 4 dudes who can play. Sam Williams-Dixon caught a touchdown pass out of the backfield in the spring game, and he ran hard. He's running like he's playing for his rent money. I mean, it's impressive what Carlos Lachlan is doing with this running backs group right now. And as I said, I'm bullish on every one of those position units. With the quarterback, still, you got to show me when the bullets are really, really flying to know that you're for real or not. But for Keenholz and Sand to come through that game and not throw an interception was pretty impressive as young guys. St. Clair did throw 2 interceptions, was kind of victimized on a couple passes near the sideline. One of them was a true freshman, Fahim Delane, who made the interception, and the other was the veteran walk-on Inky Jones. I think he had an interception in the spring game for the 2nd year in a row. So he's a guy that was a great practice player and really, really gives them everything he's got every day, and good special teams player, and he deserves whatever he can get out of this. So across the board, I know on offense, I'm excited by what I saw.
On the James Peoples thing, 2 carries, I went back and I wrote about this. I'm doing a position recap, spring recap, and so he carried the ball twice, and C.J. Donaldson carried the ball 4 times. He did a lot with his 4 carries, and so generally, when you're only carrying the ball when you're carrying the ball that little, that tells you everything you need to know. Like last year, Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins each had 4 carries. No need for more than that. Mayan Williams had 4 in 2023. I think Travion Henderson was out that year. Archie Griffin only had 1 carry that year, to give you an idea of how they felt about him. And then in 2022, Travion Henderson only had 3 carries in the spring game. So that's the kind of company that they feel like James Peoples is in right now. So that speaks volumes to me.
Who was keeping spring game stats in 1975?
Well, I'm just saying in the 2023 game, Archie
They
Griffin
gave
only had one.
they gave Archie an honorary carry, I
Oh,
think, in that game.
okay. Okay.
I was keeping them because in this game because they told us they weren't going to keep live stats, and when the game's over, I post a story and I want to have even unofficial statistics in there, which I did, and then about half hour, 40 minutes later, they came out with their version of the stats, which were eerily close to mine, within a completion or a attempt or 5 or 10 yards, give or take. So I thought my extra effort was worthwhile. Logan George on defense had 3 sacks. 2 of those were, two-hand tab, and one of those saying probably was going to elude that and get outside the pocket and make a throw or whatever. I think CJ Hicks may have had the other one. So those guys, solid. Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry probably didn't play a whole lot of snaps, so that's why maybe they didn't have those kind of numbers. So I don't know. I look at it, and again, I think it was a very positive day. Nobody got hurt, and a lot of young guys got their first taste. I think 18 different people caught a pass, something absurd like that. Like all the running backs, all the tight ends, all the wide receivers, the walk-ons. I mean, just everybody who would be an eligible receiver, I think, caught a pass. So it was really something to see.
It's been 4 days in regards to my memory of this quaint game. But Lincoln Keenholz, was he as scattershot as I remember?
Yeah, what did he finish, like 5 of 5 in the second half? I think he started slowly on the first few drives, and then he was pretty good from there. And I think his performance is, and then Julian Sain was kind of down in the second half, but he did so well in the first half. We don't really think about it, but both of them a little up and down, which is what they've been all spring long. And when we were there, every time we've been there, I think Lincoln has been the better quarterback. And then on Saturday, you got to see what we've been hearing about Julian Sain, is that he looks just fine. I think what we also need to mention is that this is a very, very basic defense with, I think, 1 or 2 coverages. And I don't know that there was any blitzing. So this is designed for the quarterbacks to be able to operate. And so I thought they all did. They all completed like over 60% of their passes. Even Tavian St. Clair with the 2 interceptions, like he was still completing the vast majority of his passes. So they were able to do the routine things routinely and operate. But Keenholz overall, and he got to show his ability to run. I think he started slowly, but then you look at his numbers at the end of the day, and Steve, I don't know if you still have them there, but he I think completed about 2/3 of his passes for 150 so yards, 70, 170 some yards or something like that. So he cleaned it up pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I think you're about right on there. I can call it up here. I've got it. Keenholz for the day, let's just see. He was 12 of 18, which is obviously 67%. 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. His long play, they have it as 51, but I thought the ball was snapped on the other side of the 50-yard line. I thought it was a 49-yard play to Mylan Graham. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it was 51. I don't know. But Tavian St. Clair, 11 of 15 with 2 interceptions. That means only 2 of his 15 passes hit the ground. That's pretty amazing. He was victimized, as I said. Fahim Delane made a great break on the ball to the sideline. The Inky Jones one was kind of an errant pass, and Jones kind of picked it off as he was going out of bounds himself. Sayin was 17 of 24, which is just shy of 75%, if my math is correct, because 18 would have been 75%. So 1 touchdown, 175 yards. And I liked, as I said, his touchdown pass to Max Clare was a good play. St. Clair, for starting with the 2 interceptions among his first 3 or 4 pass attempts, he came back after that and was just like solid as a rock. It's like it took that to center him. and then to get the good football out of him. And he led the team right down the field in the 2-minute drill and hit Phillip Bell for a touchdown in the back of the end zone in double coverage, just kind of knifed it right in there to him. That was a good one to end on for Tavian St. Clair. So that'll be the one hopefully he dwells on and remembers and learns from the other ones. Keenholz struggled early, was a little bit he was not hitting pinpoint. He was a little bit off mark early, had a drop early, and then just completed a bunch of passes in a row and looked like he belonged. But it took him like a full quarter to do that. Whereas St. Clair came out of the box and he was firing. I mean, boom, boom, boom. He led touchdown drives of 82, 65, and 65 in his first 3 possessions. And that was impressive to watch. A guy that was accurate, efficient, and led the team right down the field. Now, granted, as Tony said, defenses were vanilla. They didn't do a lot of exotic coverages, blitzes, stunts, games up front, twists. I kept everything pretty much in base defense to keep it, that way for the offense in that setting. So they're going to see obviously a lot more things. The defensive coordinators are going to throw the kitchen sink at these guys as they get into the season coming up. So to me, a great outing for these young quarterbacks. And now how good this team will be in 2025 will be defined with how much better they can get between now and the Texas game. That to me is kind of where things hinge right now.
Mark, you're muted.
Trying to keep the coughs off the air. Garrison making a comment here. Something were to happen in season, knock on wood, Lincoln is a Kenny Guyton. And my initial thought was you need a backup quarterback, of course, that you can depend on. I'm scanning the Big Ten, and I'm only coming up, though, with 2 situations where the starting quarterback got hurt for significant periods of time. I'm thinking Tyler Van Dyke at Wisconsin, Cade McNamara at Iowa. Every other starting quarterback in the Big Ten, at least last year, made it through the entire season unscathed, playing every game, playing every meaningful snap, unless he was replaced like a Will Rogers at Washington. But they all stayed healthy. So 16 out of 18. So maybe the position isn't as vulnerable as I thought.
You're playing with fire, Mark. You're crazy.
Yeah.
To throw that one out there? Okay.
That guy can break his leg on the next play, but you got to have a pair and a spare, as Herbs found out back in 2014. You better have a couple dudes that can play the game. So yeah, especially 16 games, if that's how long the season's going to last. I mean, that's absurd just in and of itself for college kids to be playing 16 games. You better have a starter and a backup really at every position across the board. And I think they do. This 2 deep is good. I wouldn't say it's great yet as of today. There are a few holes, as we talked about. Defensive tackle, still got to find some backups. I think offensive line, 4 of the 5 spots seem to be etched in stone, I would say, at this point. I think that right tackle spot, Austin Seereveld, seems like he's kind of, surged ahead of Philip Daniels because he started the game and Daniels came in with the second team. But that will linger over into preseason camp. And, I don't think that it's going to be a real big issue. It's great to have a guy like Daniels. If he's your 6th best offensive lineman, I think that's pretty good. And you got some other guys there that are in the mix. So, yeah, I came away with the offensive line feeling pretty good about things.
Are we going to see a situation at tight end unlike what we've seen in the past? Because we know that you got 11 guys on the field, and most of those receiver spots are going to be filled up by receivers. You want the best wide receiver room in the nation to supplant those, to supply the those spots out there unless you're in a short yardage situation. So 2 tight ends, I got to think, is out the door. And Max Clare appears to be like definitely the best player at the position, where in the past we've seen more options at tight end in regards to, not that they don't have them this year, but that he appears to be a guy that you would want on the field basically all the time when it means something.
Well, and Ohio State played 5 tight ends in the national championship game last year, so like that gives you some. And 3 of them played over 10 snaps. Yeah, so this is a deep group, and they lose G. Scott, they lose Patrick Gerd, but they're gonna play a bunch of guys this year. And Will Kazmarek, Keenan Bailey's called him the best blocking tight end in the country. Everybody knows how everybody feels about Max Clare. So those 2 guys are going to be playing together a lot in 12 personnel, I think, because they like what that gives them with defending with the run, giving them more bulk, but then also Max Clare as basically the slot receiver in that 12 personnel gives them some things too when he's matched up with linebackers and guys like that. So I think it's Ohio State. They're always going to want to run the ball, and they're going to do that with a lot of 12 personnel, which is where now you're going to take off Brandon Ennis or Bryson Rogers out of the slot, and it doesn't necessarily have to be one of those 2 guys, but because we did see, I saw, Brandon Ennis has played outside quite a bit this spring as well, as he's trying to make sure he's not taken off the field in 12 personnel when he's not just substituted for a tight end. Maybe that's an opportunity to give Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate a break. But I do think they're going to play those 2 guys a lot. And Jelani Thurman and Bennett Christian came on last year and supplanted Jelani Thurman. So and Nate Roberts, a true freshman, you saw him in the spring game. I think he caught like 4 passes or so. He's probably the future of the position, but they don't need him this year. But I keep saying, this is perhaps the deepest group in the country. Any one position group, Ohio State's tight ends, deep and talented. And they've got 2 guys that can work really, really well together in that 12 personnel, the 1 back, 2 tight ends, with Max Clare as the receiver of that, and Will Kazmarek is the blocker of that. Not unlike a Luke Farrell, Jeremy Ruckert back in the day.
Yeah, I like where the tight end group is right now, and will like it a lot better. They said Will Kazmarek had his left foot, I believe, in a boot for the spring game. Somebody tweeted a picture of that out, may have been Dan Hope or somebody, and Keenan Bailey responded to it and said that as it turned out, Kazmarek only missed 1 practice in the spring, so you figure he got injured in the scrimmage on Tuesday afternoon and then didn't practice on Friday, and then was, in that scooter thing with his knee on the seat of the scooter, that type of deal. And after the game, Ryan Day said he will not miss the summer program, which starts early June, obviously. So he'll get whatever it is taken care of here, shortly, however they treat it. And if it's a foot or ankle, whatever it might be, and he'll be available for the summer program. He's the blocking tight end, obviously. Did have a few catches last year. Max Clare, you look at him, there's not a lot of him there. I mean, he doesn't cast the shadow like a lot of Ohio State tight ends have here over the years, but he's a tremendous receiving tight end. Led Purdue in receptions last year, I think right around 50 catches, something like that. And he'll have maybe 40, I don't know, as just a guess, maybe more, because teams are going to lock on to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, and in some situations determine that those guys will not beat us, and he should be running free wide open every game, all game long, if teams are going to be doing that, because he is a definite mismatch. He's got some scoots, and he is a definite mismatch for probably 85 to 90% of the linebackers that they're going to play throughout the course of this season. So I look for him to have a huge year and be a big part of the success of this offense, converting third downs and doing the kind of things that they have to have out of the tight end in this offense. So he should be a tremendous security blanket, a check down for Sayan or Keenholz, whoever's at quarterback. And to me, this is the best of both worlds. He may have more catches at tight end this year than anybody they've had at that position going back a ways. Used to know these numbers by heart. I know Ben Hartsock may have had 51 year, and Ricky Dudley may have had 50 in 1995, but it's been very rare for a guy to have 50 catches at tight end for Ohio State. I don't know if anybody else really has in the modern era.
Yeah, John Frank did it a couple of times, and I think he's the only one, because even Cade Stover and Ricky Dudley, I think, were in the 40s, and Ben Hartsock was like at 35 or 33 in 2003 or so. But Will Kazmaier caught over 20 passes in each of his first 2 playing years at OU, so he can also catch it. But yeah, it's a deep group overall that is very talented, and it's pretty amazing. I know the transfer portal has just opened, but it sure didn't seem like anybody was looking to leave, which is pretty interesting.
Did any of these highly regarded defensive backs, again, I'm going to merge the spring with the spring game because of, some continuity there. And obviously Devin Sanchez, we talked about him a couple weeks ago and how impressive he's been. Aaron Scott broke up a pass in the end zone early in the game. Anyone there that distinguished themselves?
For me, I was impressed with what I saw from Lorenzo Styles Jr. all spring long whenever we got to see him, because that's a tough ask to replace Jordan Hancock and all that he did, and they're trying to do that. And you saw him break up a pass, I think, in the spring game. We saw him do it pretty much every practice. He was breaking up passes, so impressed by him. Aaron Scott has had his moments for sure. Fell down in the end zone against Mylan Graham, but didn't get taken advantage of there. Devin Sanchez is perfectly fine. Everything you would want in a true freshman and more, and nothing seems too big for him. He wasn't really attacked all that much from what I've seen in the practices that we got to watch. So I think they feel pretty darn good about their top 4 corners. And the other thing is, we also saw Lorenzo Styles playing corner and Jermaine Matthews playing nickel in the spring game. So they're doing some interesting things there as well. They know that Jermaine Matthews can play nickel if they need that. It was just interesting to see Lorenzo Styles playing outside, and Bryce West can do that as well. And so the corner nickel seems like they can mix and match there. But I think they've got 6 guys that can play, and Lorenzo Styles and Bryce West have both done pretty well at nickel.
I'm going to agree. I thought that Aaron Scott battled his behind off, and I've got a ton of photos from our photographer, Dan Harker, with balls in the air to Mylan Graham and other receivers. And Aaron Scott is right there battling these guys. I think I made the observation a while back. Your starters are Davis and Igbanos, and Lorenzo Styles probably as the slot corner, I believe, Tony, if I'm right. And then Jermaine Matthews, who's outstanding on the other side. And those 3 guys may go on and play in the NFL, but I think the guys coming up behind them probably have bigger, over their career trajectory, bigger, longer, better NFL ceiling than the guys who are starting right now. It's just where they are in their stage of development. IGB and those guys are here, and Scott and those guys are here. They're coming. And Scott, Sanchez, and Bryce West are all outstanding. So this may very well be the best 6-man contingent of cornerbacks in Ohio State history. And I'd have to go back and really, really study this and look at it. But this is about as good as it gets at that position. And I think teams are going to have a really difficult time completing. You think about it, okay, somebody may hit a pass or 2 here and there, but are you going to hit 4 or 5 of them in one drive to go down and score on this defense? I don't think so. I think that they're going to figure it out eventually if that's what happens, and bat a couple of those away. So to me, that's such a strength on this defense, and that's what they have to have, because until the pass rush is proven, those guys are going to be kind of put on the firing line to make plays on the back end. And so far, they're showing that they can do it. So that's good. As I said, you got Caleb Downs, the All-American at safety. What what's the deal at the other safety? Is it going to be Hartford? Is it going to be McLean? I don't know at this point. I think we'll see as they get into preseason camp. Good that they've got both of them there to see what they can do. Leroy Roker seems like a pretty pleasant surprise. He was an unheralded recruit last year, redshirt freshman. He's in the 2 deep right now behind Caleb Downs. Doesn't figure to play a whole lot, if Caleb Downs is there, but and especially he's not going to go in at that other position with those other 2 guys in front of him. So yet good to know that he's coming on, and this is Caleb Downs' last season at Ohio State. Newsflash. So you're going to need to develop and get people ready for the future as well. So again, linebacker position to me, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese are studs, and even though Reese is a little inexperienced, and Peyton Pierce, he was everywhere on Saturday. I probably wrote his number down. They didn't give us tackle stats, but I would bet he had 7 or 8 just as a guess. And he just seemed to be all around the football on Saturday. He got to play quite a bit, obviously, because he's a young guy. So future at that position, if they stay with this 4-2-5 defense, looks pretty good as well.
I sorry, Mark, just wanted to interrupt about the best group of cornerbacks maybe in OSU history, because I immediately had to start looking at 1997 and 1996. Like the 96 team, Steve, as you know, Antoine Winfield, Sean Springs, Ahmed Plummer was on there. I think Ty Howard may have been on there as well. Yeah, he was on there. So I don't want to.
That's a really good group. Yeah.
Central
Springs and
McClellan.
Winfield played forever in the NFL. I mean, no question about it. And Plummer did play for a few years with the 49ers too.
He was a first-round pick too. So
you got some guys there, 3 really good ones there out of that group. And there have been some times, and I know here in just the last 10 years, you had some overlap with, Denzel Ward. I have to get that right. Conley, Arnett, Lattimore, who was 2013 and who was 2016 and who was 2018. I can't keep them all straight, but there was a lot of, and Okuda and Wade, there was a lot of overlap there with some really good players on a team together. Who were the corners when they won the national championship? It was Eli Apple and who was the other?
Duran Grant.
Yeah. I saw Duran. Duran is, I think, helping out back at his alma mater at St. Vincent St. Mary. And he brought some kids down to a practice and got to say hi to him. Got to say hi to Jalen Marshall. He's helping out back at his high school in Middletown. So I got to say hi to him. He came in and watched practice one day. So a lot of guys are coming back. Evan Spencer was at the spring game. I know. I saw a picture of him down on the sideline last Saturday. So a lot of guys, are staying in and around the program. And, that's great to see that, they've got guys that are in the NFL. They've got guys, and they come back when they can, obviously. And, the team got their rings on Saturday. They got 3 rings, 1 from Ohio State for winning the national championship, 1 from the playoff for just simply qualifying for the playoff, and then 1 from the playoff for winning the national championship. So 3 rings for every player. And it was the perfect day to do it because most of the NFL-bound guys were able to come before the draft. Once the draft hits, they pretty much have to move to the city where they've been drafted and start working out and, do the mini camps and, all the stuff that goes with being a pro football player. So they were able to get back on campus, and obviously the current team members that were on the team were there as well. So very fitting tribute to that team. We were joking that the rest of the Big Ten had to be eating their heart out because they stopped the scrimmage at the end of the first quarter and spent 5 full minutes passing those rings out, with interviews on Big Ten Network, stopping the game with Will Howard and Sawyer, Jack Sawyer as well. Like if you're Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, USC, Washington, Oregon, whoever fan, you had to be. Rah, 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 rah. I can't believe they're wasting time on TV talking to these people, passing out these rings. Rah, 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 rah. Yeah, eat your heart out.
So, Steve, the rings that were given to them for making the playoffs? I wasn't sure if that came from Ohio State or the CFP. Are you?
They said 2 from the playoff. Yeah,
okay, all right.
Is where I heard it.
So basically, all 12 teams then got some rings, I would assume, for making the playoffs. I wasn't sure if that was just an Ohio State thing.
You get a ring, and Penn State, you get a ring, and Indiana, you get a ring. Michigan, we're going to might need those rings we gave you. We might need those back. But otherwise, you get a ring, and you get a ring, and you get a ring. Yeah.
Does Oregon get a Rose Bowl ring?
Participation ring. Big Ten championship.
They do have the Big Ten championship. Yeah. They are the champions, yes, of the Big Ten. Yeah,
those sorry people. 34-0. Even Trump knew that score. He said it was 34-0 in the second quarter. Back in my smoking days, I would have got the cigarettes out and took a celebratory lap around the outside of the Rose Bowl and puffed on a couple cigarettes, but don't do that anymore, so that's good. In the second quarter, I would have stopped watching the game and just, gone on a victory lap.
I know. It was tough. It was delightful. It was amazing. But that was that for that to sink in. I was just sitting there, just stunned, sitting there, 34-0 against what's supposed to be the best.
The nation sits in stunned, shocked silence as the best team in America rocked what people thought was the best team in America.
Congratulations on winning the Big Ten. Now you're an underdog in your first playoff game.
Everybody knew.
Absolutely. And we know that we are here just about every Wednesday. It's every week, folks. We've never missed a week, but typically on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Again, the audio's on your favorite audio platform. You can catch Steve on Bucknuts, Tony, Buckeye Weekly, and Buckeye Huddle. And before I get to Tony here with what he's got going on this week, we do have a recruiting note that came in, of course, here in the last 24 hours with TCU commit wide receiver Brock Boyd flipping to Ohio State. Brock Boyd, who hailed from the same high school as Quinn Ewers, caught 111 passes and 19 touchdowns. Not for his career, for this last season in Texas. So I think
you have to trust in Brian Hartline. If he says this guy needs to be on the Ohio State football team and he's going to coach him, I think you have to trust him. It was kind of funny. Boyd, everybody reported on the verbal commitment, and then Boyd put out there a message to 24/7 Sports. Please fix my height and weight. I think he's supposed to be 6'3", 6'2", or 6'3", 183, something like that. I don't know the exactitudes on that, but something in that range. And so I thought that was kind of cute that I'm a big time recruit. If you'd please fix my height and weight, I'd really appreciate it. So,
it's like he's I think 24/7 had like 6'1", 165. And people are like, why is Ohio State getting a commit from this 3-star 165-pound guy?
Yeah, no doubt. But I thought the same thing. And I got on his profile on 24/7. I looked down and I see they had his rushing yards. Like, then you had to scroll off the page to get the receiving 111 receptions. That just kind of, that tells me that my man's can run the routes and he can catch the football. So to me, and as you guys said, if that's yours high school, that is the creme de la creme of Texas football right there. They're in the top 10 percentile, I think, of football programs in Texas. So, I would say you got a winner with him.
Yeah, definitely. He can catch the ball in traffic. He can run after the catch. A lot of reasons to see why Brian Hartline likes him. Yeah.
TCU commit flipped, and as we all know, TCU did play for the national championship 2 years ago. So that's a great football program.
Technically speaking, yes. They
just like Penn State was in the Final Four this year.
Yes, they got off the bus. They limped on the bus. There were bodies that, yes, were.
This
were
is the
taken off
difference.
the
This is
field.
the difference. Notre Dame made the championship game, and I think with Marcus Freeman, if like with Ohio State, if everything just locked into place one year, they might win one with Marcus Freeman. Penn State, I don't think is ever going to win one with Franklin, but whatever. Whoever.
All
it
right.
is.
Steve's declared it. I go back and forth with Penn State. I think you can look at that season two different ways. If you want to go pro Penn State, we broke through. We made the Big Ten championship game for the first time in 8 years. We made the playoff with 11-1. We won playoff games. We came within a field goal of getting to the championship game. But on the other hand, it's, well,
Who'd you beat?
you went 11-1 because you didn't have a Michigan type team as a second team on the schedule. Yes, you made the playoff because it got expanded to 12. Yeah, and you beat Boise State and SMU, and those are the kind of teams you would have beaten the last 10 years anyway. So what did you really do?
What was their best regular season one? Was it Illinois or somebody? Or
Yeah, 10-3 Illinois. Yeah,
that was it.
that would be the one. It was
Yeah.
that was pretty ugly. They were up 14-7 with like 2 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
So,
Oh well.
yeah, that would Boise State, SMU, the other two. A nice little route to the Final Four for them. They
They
got
had an easier route to the Final Four than Ohio State and Oregon, who both beat them. So yeah, it's we will go to our grave saying that. So.
Tony, Buckeye Huddle, Buckeye Weekly.
Yeah, rather than promote myself, Mark, I will just say last week was episode 312, which divided by 52 is actually 6. So last week we wrapped up our 6th year of doing this, and
Sixth
welcome,
big year.
welcome to
Now
the
we're into
start.
year 7.
This is the first episode of year 7.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to retire from this one day. 35 years later or something.
2019, huh?
That's
spring of
crazy.
2019. We decided
Unless were we doing 2 shows a week at one point? I don't think so,
I don't
right?
believe so.
No.
No.
Never.
So we got this cranked up in the spring. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and
Wow. So
maybe
like recapping or maybe just like previewing the 2019 spring game, maybe, or something like that.
who knows what was in my mind
I
at
think,
the time to
I
say,
don't know
hey,
if you caught this, Tony, that we've got a portal entrant. Reese Stocksdale, I think, has entered the portal, walk-on wide receiver, as our friend Dave Biddle would say, playing time unaffected.
Also, third team punter Anthony Veneri.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I don't think I'll be writing up either of those, but
Yeah, probably not. Message board post.
yes.
So there you go.
there's one
Oh my
Tony
God.
Gerdeman, episode 1.
Oh, my God.
There
A
is,
young Tony
and
Gerdeman.
Claire. I forgot about Claire too.
let's see,
Oh,
let's
Claire
see.
was in it. Yeah, Claire was
we-
with us for a while.
Yeah, so Tony,
And then we replaced Claire with new
Claire, me, Claire,
Claire.
where's Steve?
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
That's before we had boxes. YouTube
Yeah.
would only give us the single shots back and forth.
Yeah. I was back at my old house,
There it
too.
is. We're yucking it up on something.
Yep.
All right. There it is. That was easy
Oh.
to find.
All right, guys. I don't have anything going on at Bucknuts, just recapping the spring, and got a ton of player interviews and different things we're going to be releasing, and got some interesting off-season features that I want to work on and some different things. So I got some ideas I'm going to be diving into when I get those projects together. Debating about a book. I did one in 2014. Haven't come to grips with whether I want to do one yet or not for this season, but this was about the time I got the cracking on it 10 years ago. So
Ooh.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we have
Steve. Do it.
Yeah,
we have reached our summer. Well, Steve, I'll tell you, we're also working on one. So
good. Yeah, I'd want to get it done by mid-June. That way it's out by mid-July before the season starts if possible. So, yep, we'll see.
and of course,
All right. Folks, before Steve's book knocks mine off the coffee table, order this.
Buy
It's a
Mark's
quick
book.
read. Yeah. Disputed National Champions. The link's down in the description section. You'll like it. All right. Tony, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this for 6 years. Year 7 started today, folks. And Steve, of course, as well. Guys, we appreciate it. We'll do it again next week, I believe.
Yep.
Yep.
Catch y'all later.